following is a presentation of the Belly Up Sports Media Network.
Let me just say, after view distorting the belt, they're proclaiming the real world champion. I'm going to tell you all, with a tear in my eye, this is the greatest moment in my life. When you walk around this world and you tell everybody you're number one, the only way you get to stay number one is to be number one.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Captain Lou Extravaganza. We are live, as always, on the Captain Lou Sports Network, powered up by the Belly Up Media Group, bellyupsports.com. Check out our website, bellyupsports.com, and you can see the complete lineup of podcasts and the great hosts that we have, including our special guest coming up momentarily, Brent Radlinsky from the 1420 Sports Bar podcast. One of our nominees, by the way, for Podcaster of the Year here on the network. So can't wait to talk to Brent. We got a lot to talk about. Again, we are on the Captain Lou Sports Network on YouTube. Check us out. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Or if you want, you can drop us a line at sweetlou1965 at yahoo.com. Follow us on X, formerly known as Twitter. I don't know how long we got to say that anymore, but at Real Captain Lou. Or follow our Facebook pages, Lewis Gamlin or the Captain Lou Extravaganza. We are brought to you, as always, by SeatGeek, the official secondary market of Belly Up Sports and the Captain Lou Extravaganza. Use the promo code Captain Lou when you go to SeatGeek.com. There's still tickets available for Lions home games, the season finale against Minnesota. Who knows, maybe even a playoff game at Ford Field. Hold your breath. Come on, we might be able to get it. SeatGeek.com. And we're also sponsored, as always, by McIntosh and Associates, your financial services group. All right, without any further ado, let's bring in our guest. He's always gracious with his time. Brent Radlinsky, the host of the 1420 Sports Bar podcast. Brent, happy holidays. Merry Christmas to you before we get going. How are you?
Yeah, I guess it is that time of year, Lou. How are you doing, sir? It's a pleasure to be on your show once again. It's been a long time, no talk.
I agree, and it's been way too long. I hope you've had a good fall. I know you're busy doing a little moving around, so
yeah, moving and shaking across the city here a little bit, but always time to talk some sports with you. There's no getting around that.
All right, we got a lot to go over that I want to cover with you. And first of all, talking about big money, there's nobody else that's happier right now, I think, in the United States and maybe Japan, unless if somebody wins the Powerball. But that's Shohei Ohtani, $700 million. Not really surprised at going to LA, Brent, but you know what? The way that it went about, he did it his own way, didn't he?
Well, what made me laugh about the whole deal was like up here in Canada, they were talking about, you probably heard about it out there in Michigan, is the Toronto Blue Jays talk was pretty hot and heavy. There was a flight trackers like NORAD Santa tracker going across the country and everything else. And then they had Ohtani was going to be in Toronto, and the deal was signed, sealed, delivered. And then it just kind of went away. And then the next day when I heard it was $700 million, I was shocked. And we kind of joked about it for about a year and a half now, 2 years since he started going. I thought like $1 billion. We were joking about $1 billion. And then I thought, he's probably a $40 million pitcher, $35 million pitcher. And then the more power numbers he put up, you thought Judge money, and then plus the Japan money that he brings in, $1 billion wasn't out of the question. And now that $700 million, that became reality pretty quick. And I was shocked, and I still am to this. We went to a Christmas party later that night, and I was talking to some guys who aren't really sports guys, and they asked me. They said, "Is it true he got 700?" I said, "Yeah, 70 million a year," and they were shaking their heads. And good on them. I mean, if someone's going to pay you, take it.
Yeah, right on. And the thing about it now, the next thing with it is the deferred payments. He's going to defer $68 million a year. I guess I don't care what he does with it. But my question, Brent, and I don't know if you can answer this. I mean, they say that there's still going to be 50 million of it for ramifications for the luxury tax. But, if I don't know if more ball players do it in baseball, what's the big deal with it being deferred? I mean, I know he's going to get it in 10 years or whatever. That whole thing still kind of puzzles me a little bit
for what he's doing. Because if it was 70 million against the tax, the tax threshold, so now it's only 24. It'll be 40 against the tax threshold instead of 70. Okay. So now so that's kind of a deal. It's just like having an Aaron Judge on your team in comparison to having 2 Aaron Judges for 1 guy. I mean, the Dodgers, I don't think that they really cared about the tax threshold over the years, and I think they're at a point right now as if they got the deal done and they were like happy with that. And then this was just an extra bonus that they got. So it was a tax threshold thing, and that's all it was. And maybe to bring in another guy to because Ohtani allegedly wants to win, because he was offered the same deal basically by the Giants, because the Ohtani group showed San Francisco the deal, said, if you guys want to match it, then he'll pick what team he wants to go to. And he basically said, I'll stay at my home in Santa Monica, wherever he lives down there in Southern California. And, it kind of shows that he wants to win. I mean, if he wanted to win that badly, would he have taken 30 million? Sure. That's our story for another day. But I like when athletes say, I want to win, well, how much of a haircut are you taking on your paycheck? So it kind of talks out of both sides of his mouth, in my opinion, on that, because he still took $70 million a year, and whether it's deferred or not, because he made 50 million or plus on endorsements that we know of last year. So It's not like that the boy's starving for any money.
And the Dodgers are going to make money off of him. There's no doubt about it. I don't begrudge him for doing it. If you, like you said, get as much money as you can, because, the Dodgers based their television contract along with the Yankees. They're in another stratosphere as opposed to somebody like Detroit or Kansas City or Milwaukee. But so that begs the $1 million question. Is this going to put him over the top in the next 4 or 5 years? You and I have mentioned this many times, Brent. I call them the Atlanta Braves of this generation. They get there every year, but they can't get over the hump.
They had that one World Series in 2020. I don't know how much you kind of, Dave, my co-host, calls it 3/4 or 5/8 of a World Series kind of deal, one of those things. And one of those things. So they haven't done anything since like you said, they've been licking the jar for a lot of years. They're there no matter what, every year in, year out, and they spend a lot of money every year, and they get nothing for it. I mean, second place is still the first loser, no matter what you say. And you can hang all the National League pennants you want and the National League West pennants up in Chavez Ravine there, and it don't matter to anybody. Does this put him over the top next year? I've only seen 1 DH in my history, because next year he's just a pitch. He's just a hitter next year, right? Yeah. And so I've only seen 1 DH in the history. Excuse me. Correct me if I'm wrong, Lou, but it was Paul Molitor back in 1993 going to the Jays. And that's the last time I've seen a DH do anything, right? Yeah. And so it's one of those things. I've never seen a DH year one do anything for them. They have Freeman, they have Betts, but their pitching staff isn't anything to write home about. I don't think this does them a whole bunch of good next year, the year after, maybe, because when he's pitching. But how's that Tommy John surgery going to hold up? And we talked about this on our show on Monday night. Is that he's only got X amount of years to pitch. So he's got like 3 or 4 years after next year probably to be a pitcher. And so that $70 million, it's not, I don't think, and people have been persecuting me all week about this take I have, but I think it's not a great on-field investment. It's a fantastic off-field investment, because the money the Dodgers are going to make on that deal is head and shoulders above the $700 million. I mean, they're going to make, the Dodgers don't do anything without that Guggenheim group that Magic Johnson's part of that group and everything else. They don't do anything without having dollar signs in their rear view mirror. And so this was more of an off the field move more than an on the field move, in my opinion.
Well, you bring up a great point. Look at some of these long-term big money contracts. Well, were big money at the time. Albert Pujols, nothing. Miguel Cabrera. I mean, that one hits close to home. I mean, even A-Rod is second one. Towards the end, they ended up buying him out. Yeah, I agree with you. Your take is well-founded. I mean, he's going to have to prove it to me, Brent, that he's worth on the field. He's worth that kind of loot. Now, off the field, you're right. They're going to make their money tenfold, because people are going to want to see him. They already draw great.
The international money that he's going to bring in, like the tours and everything else, that's the big deal, and that's where the off the field stuff, and that's where it's worth a lot of money. Yeah. But to defer the payments, everything else, like it's just you just wonder if there was, I don't know, a team like the Yankees who tried to defer some money, how they would have been persecuted. But because it was the Dodgers out on the West Coast, we kind of forget about them. It's odd. I don't think it puts the Dodgers over the top next year. They still don't have any pitching. Right. Walker Buehler's out. They haven't signed Kershaw yet, but he's also 17 years into his career. They say they're going to bring him back, but he just had shoulder surgery. So you still got to pitch. And we saw in the World Series this year, you had an Arizona team that almost won with pitching, right? Yeah. And they didn't, because Cinderella never wins the way it turns out in Major League Baseball. But I don't think next year, like a DH isn't putting you over the top, in my opinion.
No.
That's just me, but I've been wrong a time or two in the past. So
at least you admit it. I give you credit for that. Real quick, last thing on baseball, I want to give you a question about the Yankees with they got Soto and Verdugo. They're gonna have some power, and they're gonna have some hits, obviously. But again, the pitching is what I worry about with the Yankees. I told somebody they're gonna win 99 games, but how many are they gonna win in the postseason?
They'll win 90 to 99 games, but are they going to be able to outpitch their problems? Probably not. Right. They won't be able to score their problems. Sorry, because they have Garrett Cole, and then who knows? Yeah, Rodon didn't do anything last year. You don't know what you're getting out of the rest of the guys. Nasty Nestor Cortez did not have a good year last year at all. And I thought all along he was kind of a flash in the pan. There's a reason why he wasn't signed anywhere for a number of years. He's a journeyman pitcher. And so what are you going to get out of a guy like that? Bringing Soto in 100%, that's going to help out Judge's stats. It's going to be a show me year for Soto, because he's playing for a big contract. That short porch in the Bronx is going to help him out a lot. And he'll see a lot of pitches to hit because Judge is right behind him. So they're going to score some runs, but they still don't have pitching. They have Garrett Cole, and that's it. And I kind of thought that maybe, just because I heard this guy's going to the Dodgers too, the other kid from Japan, that Yamamoto, but I've already heard that deal is kind of signed, sealed, delivered to go to LA already. Because that's why kind of the deal that Ohtani took that deferred payment to give it to this Yamamoto guy who's supposed to be the next coming of pick a guy. So the money's out there, and I don't blame the players. I don't blame the owners. I blame the system for allowing this kind of crap to happen, because you go to the other sports and there's a salary cap or whatever it might be. But these guys, like, they don't care what they spend, and especially a team like the Dodgers, over the years, they haven't done anything. You think they're saying, you know what, let's go all in, or the Yankees, let's go all in. We've been spending $1 billion over how many years and don't have anything to show for it in the last 15 years. So, like, it's the system. It's not the players, and it's not the owners. The owners basically eat themselves alive, and so now the players are basically saying, "Well, keep paying us. We don't care."
Oh, 100%. And they're not breaking any rules. You know, the Yankees have done this for years and years and years. Since you and I and Moses wore short pants.
There you go.
They've with George Steinbrenner. They've played within the rules, and that's just the way baseball is always going to be, I think. And, it's just a fact of life. One quick thing, the big signing for my Tigers, getting Kente Maeda, he's going to take the place of Eduardo Rodriguez.
I like Rodriguez, and that's the him going to Arizona is going to help Arizona's chance, because now Arizona can put Rodriguez in as their quasi number one and take a little pressure off the guys who are rookies. That was a great signing by Arizona. Maeda, solid pitcher, but I think your Tigers are going to be a couple of games away from a wild card spot, to say the least.
Yeah, I think so too.
So are the Yankees. Don't worry about it, Lou. You guys are going to do it for about $200 million less.
Right on. And all I got to think of, it could be worse. They could be in the same boat as my Detroit Pistons, but that's another day for another broadcast.
Wow.
You talk about futility, and it breaks my heart in one regard. My son is a huge NBA fan. He's, and he loves the Pistons, and it's just, he's like, Dad, I don't know I've never seen anything like it. And I haven't either in my lifetime. I mean, we've seen some doormat teams, but this is ridiculous.
Not like that. And
Oh my
then,
God.
and the thing is, it's like there's guys on that team that are making a good chunk of change. Like it's like basketball players make money hand over fist, and it's just like, what are you getting for your return? It's crazy to me. It's absolutely to be that futile. Like at this pace, I've never seen it before.
I haven't
never
either.
seen it.
No, not at all. Let's switch gears to the gridiron. And the topic right now, obviously in college football, is the college football playoff. The bowl season starts this weekend with the Duke's Mayo, Avocado, Mexico bowls.
Yeah.
But we could spend an hour talking about that. But nobody's going to show up but the parents and the bands. But the college football playoff and the New Year's Six games. First of all, it's been the topic, Florida State or Alabama. Brent, I've gone back and forth on this. At first I was very upset with Florida State not getting in. 13-0, they won their schedule. My only comparison was, they let Ohio State in with Cardale Jones, back in 2015 or whatever it was when they won it. But then I look at Alabama and they are the better team. And again, I'm resigned to that fact now with Michigan and Alabama getting in along with Texas and Washington. What's your thought on Florida State or Alabama?
I don't know if the committee got it wrong, but I don't know if they got it right. And I'm on the fence. It's been a week and a half now, whatever it's been. And I still am on the fence on this. And I just wish that, and now this will be the last time we're going to have to talk about this because it's they're going to the 12 team next year. But I love it personally just for the conversations you can have, the sports talk conversation. It's great content for us podcasters and we're getting around that. But my problem with this is that I don't think they got it right because if you're not going to take in a conference champion, an undefeated conference champion, I should excuse myself on that, and just put in an SEC champion no matter what, a Big Ten champion no matter what, then just tell us ahead of time. That's what you're putting in, and make that well known. And that this is what you're doing. This is what it's going to be, because otherwise there's no room for debate. I don't like you look at what Alabama, their season was. Yeah. They got beat by Texas early, and that we've learned it over the years that if you're going to lose a game, you better do it early, because if you do it late, you're screwed, right? Yeah. But they had some kind of stinker games. They should not have beat Auburn in the Iron Bowl. There was that trip up on the punt return that slipped and fell. So they should not have won that game. They had a pretty bad game against Texas A&M, against who was the other one that was a very, very Arkansas. So their strength of schedule it was not great, and the SEC bias came through wholeheartedly because these teams are supposed to be good. Well, they weren't very good. And they beat up on a pretty weak schedule. So when people say that their schedule was better than Florida State's, I'm like, well, really, was it? Because Florida State played some SEC teams and they beat them. And Florida State went undefeated. So and they won their conference championship. So that they should have been one up on Alabama, but Alabama got in on namesake. And I would be hard pressed to keep a one-loss Georgia team out over Alabama, because that game was a toss-up, and I don't see why Georgia. Because if you don't care about conference championships, which they obviously didn't with Florida State, then why should they care about the SEC championship game if that's the precedent that they're setting? So it's one of those. I just find it really strange that because. Georgia smoked everybody all season long. They had no hiccups, and losing to a great team, well, it happens. Like it's a toss-up game. So I don't even think. I think that the team that really kind of got bent over the coals here a little bit was more Georgia than Florida State, if that's the precedent they're setting. Because you just wonder, hypothetically, if Oregon would have won that game, then you would have had two Pac-12 teams with one loss. Yeah. Then you would have had no Pac-12 teams getting in, and Washington was in no matter what come when they made the decision. So you wonder how it all. And so when you get. And even if you look, and this isn't against you, Lou, by any means, but I know you're a Michigan guy, but who did Michigan beat? Like, if you're going by strength of schedule, because you said the other day, even their championship game, they played Iowa. Iowa didn't score a touchdown the last 6 weeks of the season. So they're not very good.
That is the most unbelievable. I got to tell you, Kirk Ferentz, I got to tell you, I'll give him credit for one thing on this one, Brent. How the hell he got them to win 10 games without scoring touchdowns? I have no idea.
It's unbelievable. And that's the thing. Like you look at these, like the Big Ten gets in no matter what, and it's there's some teams that they're not very good. Like the one game that Michigan had this year that was worth anything, and people say Penn State was ranked 21, but Penn State couldn't stop. Michigan didn't have to throw the ball once. Yeah. So really, how good was Penn State? Like Michigan had one game, and you can only beat who you play. Like that's one thing. But Michigan had Ohio State, and then that's it so far. Do they look good? Great? Yeah. But if you're going to go by schedule, as the committee said, how much better is Florida State, or how much worse is Florida State than Michigan? Like that's the problem that the committee said and has had all those years. It's great for talk like this, obviously, right. But they talk out of both sides of their mouth, and most of the time it takes care of itself. And you kind of have an idea every year. Like if we're sitting here on the 13th day of December 2023, I bet you if we do this a year from now again, and we put down 4 teams, and I know it's going to 12 next year. I bet you if we put down 4 teams, we get 3 of them right, guaranteed. And so.
We'll be complaining about the 13th team that got shut out.
That didn't get put in. Yeah, that's exactly. Yes. No, it's crazy the way it turned out. Like I don't know if they got it wrong, because Alabama's probably going to end up winning their game, and so they have a very good chance, because they're probably the best out of the 4. I'd say that they're probably the strongest out of the 4 left over right now. Texas can really go, and Michigan does have a great defense, but Alabama has a good shot to win it. So it's just, well, why even talk about it? So it's just the whole thing. It's just, sorry about that. I get revved up about this one.
No, it's great. I love it. Yeah. We'll segue right into that Michigan Alabama game. And I got to tell you, Brent, if Zach Zinner wouldn't have gotten hurt, and the other guy that took his place, I believe, or one of the guards, is hobbling, and I understand he'll be ready to go probably January 1st, but Zinner's out. And I will argue with anybody, he was the best lineman in all of college football, bar none. And, that's going to be a tough loss for them to overcome. And, Michigan's record in bowl games, 1-6 under Harbaugh. And you could go back to Bo Schembechler, who choked away a couple of national championships in the Rose Bowl back in the day. I am worried about that. I like that Michigan's favored, but gosh almighty, Alabama's defense, I think, may have an answer for the running game. If they do, I don't know how to pick this one. My heart says Michigan, but they got to win one for me to really be confident. I'm going in this one not knowing, not at all. And
Lou, I'm with you. I think actually probably everybody's listening or watching the show later on, or is right across. Even I bet the College Football Playoff Committee is hoping that Michigan wins this one to stop all the noise, because Alabama kind of snuck in there on the difference. But like we were talking off air a little bit there, I don't know how much I trust Jim Harbaugh. I think we said it earlier on, how as the head coach against Nick Saban. Like you look at Harbaugh, he's been off the field, on and off the field this year, and the noise, and because you got to remember that. They get treated like professionals, and they play like professionals. They're playing in front of hundreds of thousands of people and millions and millions of eyes on TV. But at the end of the day, they're just kids. Right. And eventually the noise around kids starts to get a little bit heavy. And that's the thing with Saban's run teams over the years in Alabama. He runs such a tight ship without any noise, backing them up. We're here to do a job. We do a business like, and I think that's going to be the X factor in this game. I think that Michigan's defense is good enough to win the game, but I don't know if they can score enough points against Alabama. They can run the ball, but as was proven, like I said, against Penn State. But what's Penn State? So, but I think that the X factor is going to be, because there's going to be a lot of noise when you see Harbaugh on the sidelines once again. It's going to be interesting to see how it all pans out. But I'm hoping that Michigan wins this football game. I don't know if they're going to, but I really hope that they do, because I'm SEC'd out. I'm personally, I'm SEC'd out. Like I know they're the big bullies on the block and everything else, but sometimes they're the SEC it's not that good, and they get in just because they're the SEC. So I'm pulling for Michigan to win this football game.
So one thing before we go to the next game in the playoff and the scandal. The one thing that's interesting to me, Brent, and I have yet to hear anybody, the ones that are saying that it's not a big deal are the former players in the NFL or the present day players. You don't hear any of the players complaining about it. It's the fans. It's Paul Feinbaum and the rest of the media. And it's coaches in the Big Ten like Greg Schiano, the AD at Michigan State, the guy at Purdue, whining about it. And, all the players and the former players say it's very easy to do. It's called make adjustments. And that's kind of, I chuckle at that when I hear that. And that's who I listen to. Do I think Michigan broke some rules? They probably did. But, I just find that interesting.
I had an old hockey coach, and this is an old saying, and no matter what, he even said when he was playing table hockey with his son, if you ain't cheating, you ain't trying. And there's a reason why there's signals in sport, whether it be football or whether it be baseball. Otherwise, third base coach would just yell bunt. Right. Yeah. There's a reason why there's signals, and it's part of your job to make sure those signals aren't getting stolen. Was there something nefarious going on? Probably. Was there something that was that against the rules? Probably not. Otherwise, he would have got suspended for a very long time. So it couldn't have been that bad. They had to do something. They made it a 1 or 2 game suspension, I think it was. They had to do something just to shut the critics up. Saying, well, they're going to win this game anyways. They're going to win that game anyways. So why bother? Not the Big Ten. Not so much the game against Ohio State, obviously, but to have them really the outside forces not say anything, I think it's a whole lot of feathers, not much chicken. Harbaugh is a bit of a headache. There's no getting around that. There is some things that follow him no matter where he goes and what he does, whether it's buying a hamburger for a kid, which I find a bit odd still with the NIL money that goes out to everybody else. But it's and then there's just things. But like where there's smoke, there's fire. But they just haven't been able to nail him to the cross yet because he might not have been doing anything that wrong. Is he towing the line? Probably. Yeah. But if there was something really nefarious, Lou, they would have. Because the NCAA doesn't need that kind of a headache, especially from one of their big programs.
Right, 100%.
Like if it was Montana State, then whatever. Let's do something about this. Right. But they don't need trouble from one of their big dogs.
No. All right, let's go over to the other game on New Year's night. This one's going to be a dandy. You talk about this has got all the makings of a 58-55 game. It's funny going into championship weekend, Brent. I thought Texas was going to be the best team. And then I watched Washington beat Oregon, and they came in a 9.5-point dog in that game. And Michael Penix Jr. to me just played a whale of a game. I don't know. I'm rooting for Washington because I like Penix. I watched him in the Big Ten at Indiana. He's a successful guy. He's a money guy. I'm not a huge Texas fan, but boy, they're strong too. I think this one's going to be a shootout. I'm going to take a nap New Year's morning so I can stay up to watch that game New Year's night. But I think that could go up until midnight. And again, I could see over 110 points scored between the two teams.
Texas can run. Texas, they can fly. They can. Anything's in the air. It's a track meet. No getting around there. But that Penix Jr. I thought he was a Heisman guy personally. But that SEC bias came through again. And me being out here in the West Coast kind of deal out here, I see a lot of the Pac-12, and that's kind of a tip of the hat to the Pac-12. That's a swan song for them. I think that's sad for college football, but that's another story for another day, Lou. But it's great. I think that Washington wins that game because I think Penix has having one of those years, and Washington and the Pac-12 has a bit of a chip on their shoulder over the years, saying everybody forgets about us out here, and look at us now. That, like I said, that Texas team to beat Alabama the way they did, because that game wasn't close back, but that was way back in September. A lot's changed, but Washington they beat an Oregon team that can fly, and Washington's real good, and Penix is going to be the difference maker. And when a guy kind of gets I don't want to say screwed out of one of those postseason awards. Yeah. They take it to heart a little bit, and they say, okay, jump my back, boys. I got something to prove. And he's going to be an X factor in that football game. I'm taking Washington to win that game. Like you said, I'm going to be behaving myself a little more this year on New Year's Eve, so I can stay up a little later for that game on New Year's Day for sure.
It's funny is we had a safe driving seminar at work today, and one of the things that brought one of the instructors is a big football guy, and he said, now, you guys, you're going to have to use your DVR to watch New Year's Day games, especially if you can work on the second. And I said, fat chance, man. Fat chance.
I'll make it work somehow, yeah.
Oh, yeah, I'll make it work indeed. I'll make sure I get a light day on that day. We're joined, by the way, by Brent Radlinsky from the 1420 Sports Bar podcast, one of our main shows here on Belly Up Sports. You're watching the Captain Lou Extravaganza on the Captain Lou Sports Network on YouTube. We invite you to become a subscriber to our network. We have some great shows on there, including the ACHA Power Play. Hats off again to the folks at Hockey House Pod for coming on. Mackenzie Murphy last night and Leo Morone from Ohio University, one of the top teams in the ACHA in D1 the last 30 years, always near the top, gracious with their time. It's a great brand of hockey. The Road to St. Louis 2024, March 7th through the 17th, our weekly show Tuesday nights here on the network. Brent, let's go to the pros. Well, the quote unquote pro side. Some of these guys rumored to be making tens of millions of dollars next year NIL, like Marvin Harrison if he stays.
I heard. You must have read the same thing I did, that he might be staying in college to make more money. Yeah, that's crazy to me. It's good on him, whatever. But it's wow.
Speaking of that, real quick before we go to the NFL, Caitlin Clark from Iowa, the basketball star, she signed a deal with Gatorade, and she still has one more year due to COVID to play at Iowa. Why would she go to the WNBA? She's got to be making $15 million a year in NIL money at least.
Gatorade's got very deep pockets. There's no getting around that.
And
and the way women's sport is growing, and like we can go on a little bit of a tangent here. Women's sport's growing exponentially, right? So if Gatorade can get in there on the ground level and start it now and pay her this much, and she becomes a spokesperson because women's basketball's on TV a lot more, and so and young girls are watching sports. I have a niece who's 16 years old, so she's watching soccer a lot more. She plays soccer as well. So there's a whole demographic there that's so untapped compared to what it was 10 years ago with women's sports, because women are playing, girls are playing sports a lot more. So that like Gatorade's just going to here, and then Nike's going to go here. And then why, like you said, why would you go and make less money in the WNBA? Because let's face it, and women's soccer is the same way. But if these girls can stay in soccer, and like because girls slow pitches or women's slow pitch or fast pitches, it's huge in the States there in NCAA. Sure. Take it. Yeah. It's life-changing money while you're still in college. Take every penny. Every cent.
100%. And I'm happy for her that she's able to do that. And then the other gals, from LSU and whatnot, they're able to make that kind of loot. Back to the NFL. We're getting to crunch time. Got a month to go. 4 games left, I believe. To my mind right now, Brent, San Francisco, head and shoulders, is the best team in the league. They're probably going to end up with the top seed. And I think everything's going to go through the West Coast in the NFC.
100%. Lou, they got 2 MVP candidates right now. I know the MVP always goes to the quarterback, the way it's kind of been around the league for a number of years now. They should have 2 separate awards like they have up here in Canada, the most outstanding player and then everything else. But it's the MVP. They have 2 MVP guys with Brock Purdy, and then you got Christian McCaffrey, who he scores, it seems like, at will when he wants to. He's changed the way that team has played when they acquired him last year from Carolina, I think it was. That San Francisco team is real strong, and they're going to get some. They've already clinched their playoff spots. They're going to get some chances here to rest guys up a little bit. You don't want to get guys stale, but you don't want anybody limping into the playoffs. And the way that San Francisco just rolled over Seattle last week, and the way they made Philly look really average a couple weeks back, and I think they exposed Philly a lot, because you saw what Philly did against Dallas this past week, which is a surprising thing how good Dallas is, because eventually I guess a blind squirrel finds a nut once in a while, Lou, when it comes to Dallas Cowboys. But that San Francisco team, I can't see them getting beat by anybody in the NFC for sure. Will they get beat up a little bit going through the playoffs? Because the NFC, I think maybe a little stronger. But that Dallas team is pretty good. Dak Prescott's another MVP candidate, and usually when you have you're going head to head with the MVPs of especially candidates that are going into the playoffs, they have something to prove. Like I said about the college football thing with Pennick Jr., you get something. I think Prescott's finally, saying, jump on my back a little bit. Can they beat San Francisco? I don't know, because stopping that McCaffrey kid, no one's been able to do it yet. Like ever since he came out of Stanford, no one's really stopped him. He just played on some pretty bad teams out there in Carolina. But that McCaffrey kid is something else, and they got the weapons to get her done. And their defense is really good. Again, and that's the thing. They've been able to find a way to play through. They're not spectacular offensively, but they're really efficient.
Yes.
They're super efficient, and they don't make mistakes to lose games. They don't beat themselves.
No.
It's one of the biggest things.
And Dallas, you mentioned them, and with Prescott, he is probably going to win the MVP. I think in the long run, because he's got the Dallas media machine behind him.
Yeah.
Let's face it, whether you like it or not, it's a reality. They are America's team, and you love to hate them or you love to love them. And I still think he's got to prove to me, Brent, that they can win a road playoff game. And it's fine now. And I think that they've got a good shot at getting the number 2 seed. And because I think they may be able to overtake Philly, but I don't know. And then Prescott's he's going to end up getting $60 million a year in his next contract, which is coming up.
Well, and then he better find a way to win one this year, because as we've seen with a lot of these teams now that they're having to pay quarterbacks, the Kansas City Chiefs, that obviously once you got to start paying your quarterbacks all that money, and it's right throughout the league that you're paying these guys $40-50 million a year. The rest of your team falls behind a little bit. You can't have all-stars at every position. And you saw that a lot over, like with Kansas City right now. They're taking a step back. They're 8-5, making big mistakes that they weren't making before, because then, you know what, you can only pay so many guys and the rest of the guys have to go. And that's one thing. And that's one thing that's great. That's about San Francisco. And you see some other teams that are doing it too. They're doing it with quarterbacks who are making, I don't know, $700,000. I don't know the numbers a whole bunch, but you see these guys not getting paid a lot, and those teams seem to be just as successful as they would with guys who do get paid a lot. Because I do think that quarterbacks, they're a little overpaid because they're at such a premium to general managers' eyes in the offseason. But now you got how many teams right now are playing their second, third, fourth stringers in Cleveland there with Joe Flacco, right? So now you have all these guys making no money, being very successful, and guys who are sitting on the sidelines making how many millions of dollars, and their teams were doing nothing with them. You look at that Herbert guy for the Chargers, he hasn't won a damn thing in how many years, right? 4 years, what's he done? Nothing.
Yeah, nothing. And the thing is now the mindset, I think, is you're going to really have to show that you are a difference maker, a generational type quarterback, because you draft them in the first round. You can get 4 years out of them, then, give them that 5th-year option, and then you can franchise them for a couple of years. And if not, you can still spend more money on the offensive line or a wide receiver or whatever. It's crazy.
You look at that kid that's Daniel Jones, take Tommy DeVito out for the Giants. There, he's a sensation right now. I mean, the Giants aren't doing anything, but like they're paying that DeVito kid nothing. He's still living in his mom's basement. And Daniel Jones, they're going to pay him $40 million a year, or 45, I think it was, and they weren't going to win 5 games. Yeah, right. It's crazy to me. You look at some other teams, and you wonder what's going to happen with with Rodgers coming back because the Jets are not out of it yet. But if they get another win, they're in Miami this weekend. Let's say Rodgers says, "I want to come back and play," and if they got a 2-game winning streak, are you going to say sit in the bench? Like I don't know. What do you do? It's crazy. But you can't pay $50 million for Rodgers, not let him play.
Well, like and it's like I read yesterday, or maybe it was Sunday or Monday, that Kirk Cousins, his 21-day window is open. They're saying that if Minnesota makes the playoffs, he will start that playoff opener. And he's come back from that Achilles. So can you imagine Aaron Rodgers coming back after that and playing if they do make the playoffs for the Jets?
You wouldn't think, because it's going to be, if they do get in, it'll be because of Wilson getting them in. Right. Yeah. And so, but it's like that old movie, The Replacements. Hey, the guy came in at the end of the season when the strike was over, and Keanu Reeves is sitting on the sidelines, right? So it's the same kind of deal. Like it's not too far, because you have a guy you're paying $50 million to, guaranteed money. You got to play him. You got to. Yeah. And it's crazy.
And the AFC is turning into a crapshoot. I did not see Tennessee beating Miami, but Brent, as much as I hate to give Colin Cowherd any credit, what did he call Miami? The gravy you put on the mashed potatoes on Thanksgiving. It looks good, but it wears out real quick. I mean, is Miami fool's gold? I mean, can Buffalo actually catch them? And Baltimore just looks so dominant at times, but then they lay eggs. It's crazy in the AFC right now.
You got to eat a little crap to make the gravy taste good. I think that's what, like, same old hockey coach actually told me that one too. Same guy. It's the same deal, Lou. That the Miami hasn't beat anybody, and this is you hear so many things and you read so many things throughout the day, but they haven't beat anybody with a 500 record yet. And then to lose that game the other night, and I wasn't very happy with the Dolphins because I'm only three games out of my winning my pick'em pool. So that was one of the games. Like, you son of a, I was swearing a little bit when that one ended there, because I would have been 2 out, would have been the money. But the AFC is good. Like you said, Mahomes, he lost his luster, I think, because he's poopy pants. He was competitive. He was revved up after a loss, obviously, in the way that the refs. But you know what? If you don't want the refs to beat you, don't let the refs beat you. Don't leave yourself in a situation. Play better throughout the game, and don't leave it down the last play of the game. And that's what they seem to be doing. They're making a lot more mistakes. But that Baltimore team with Lamar Jackson, he's having himself an MVP type of season. And you laugh at Baltimore, and I think you might be the same way as me. You don't think of Baltimore as anything but a defensive team because of what they did 20 years ago with Ray Lewis, right? That's one thing, because you always think of them being a defensive team with not a lot of offense. They just they grind it out and play the old AFC kind of football. But that team is really, really good, and I can't see anybody stopping them. The Buffalo Bills they're such a crapshoot because Allen makes so many mistakes. Yeah. And he forces the issue kind of like Brett Favre did 20, 30 years ago. It's been that long since Favre played in Green Bay. My goodness gracious. Unbelievable. But you look at that Buffalo team, and I think they're in Dallas this weekend. So that's going to be a big game for both teams. Yeah. And if Buffalo can put something together, they have a really good shot at doing some damage and get a little bit of that mojo, because everybody's been picking Buffalo for a couple of years now. Like, they were after week 1 last season, they're your Super Bowl champion. Everybody had them written up, and they haven't done a thing. To be the man, you got to beat the man, like you had Ric Flair in the opening there saying. Yep. So the Kansas City's still that team, but Kansas City has that deficiency with their receivers, that they just don't have the weapons for Mahomes to go to. And Kelsey's I think he's a little preoccupied with somebody there to make the big difference anymore. So but who's a team, Lou, that I hate to bring this up because my co-host is such a big Denver Broncos fan, but for a team that started 1-5, and they're at 7-6 or whatever it is, and they have your Detroit Lions this weekend. Yeah. If they can do something, and they have a coach there that I'm not a big fan of in Sean Payton, but he seems to pull that team together. But Payton, I hope they lose, because one because of my co-host Dave, and the other because I'm not a big Payton guy. But they are playing good enough to win, and Detroit. Well, they're Detroit. So in the AFC, you just never know, because Detroit seems to want Detroit for whatever reason all the time. And well, here it is. Go ahead. You know more about them than I do, Luke, because I know my side of it, but I want to hear yours.
Well, I got to tell you, I'm worried about the Lions. There's a couple of things. I mean, their defense, for starters. Their weaknesses have been exposed again. Now, losing Gardner Johnson really hurt at the beginning of the year. That was such a huge pickup for him. But they're getting exposed. And Goff is, he's going through a stretch right now. His decision-making, to me, is incredible. And, I'm a little worried. I'm glad they got Denver at home this weekend. This is going to be a huge game. As a Lion fan, we're still not used to being in the spotlight like this. I looked at the remaining schedule. If we can somehow get 2 more wins, I think Detroit can still win the division. And get to 11-6. I think that'll be enough to win. The Packers did Detroit a huge favor by, pooping the bed against the Giants. That I still can't figure that one out.
The NFC North is such a crapshoot, because all of a sudden somehow Chicago's winning a game that they shouldn't, and it's just like, how is this happening? And I think that the Packers they got quarterback a little bit, like Love. He's next coming of the other two, and he's not that good because he didn't play enough for a couple 3 years now where he can be that difference maker. Yeah. Like when these guys come out of college, you got to think they've only been playing football at a high level for a couple of years, right? And if you're not playing for two or three, you're on the sidelines. Well, what are you doing? And I don't think the Packers are that good. I think that they're showing exactly who they are, and losing that game to the Giants tonight in the fashion they did, not a good sign. The Lions, I think, are going to be okay. They're already at that stage with four games left. I think that they're in that stage of the season where they're already you Lions fans are already being mathematicians. So that's a good sign when it's on the positive side of things. When we win one and they win one, okay, then we're in, and that's the kind of deal that they're at there. But Goff is a manager of the ball.
Yeah.
But Detroit has to find a way, and this should be a calling card for the team right now, I think, to be the team that hasn't been in the playoffs since 1993 or whatever it's been, and to say, let's do this for the city, let's do this for this team. The past is the past, and let's band this thing together, because the NFC is pretty open. Can they win? Can the Lions win a Super Bowl? Probably not, but you get in the big dance, anything can happen. Anything can happen.
You're right, and there was a time where I thought Detroit could be the 2 seed, which I just don't. As much as I'd love to see it, they're going to have to run the table, and I just don't see that happening. They got to go to Dallas. Jimmy Johnson, Ring of Honor night. That they're not going to win that one. I'd be shocked if they win in Dallas. And so, even if they won 3 out of 4, that would put Detroit at 12-5. They would still be a 3 seed, so they would get a playoff game at home, which is what we're all shooting for. It's like you said, 93 was the last time they won the division, and they lost that playoff game to Green Bay when I could still see Sterling Sharp doing jumping jacks in the end zone, waiting for that pass. It's like, oh my God, I have nightmares of that.
Yeah.
But to your point, it's, the Lions, they're starting to get that winning mentality, but I think they were reading their press clippings a little bit too much going into that Chicago game. And they just fell flat, especially in the second half.
I got a funny story about that one, Lou. My brother-in-law was visiting from just down the road in Medicine Hat, and he's a big Bears fan.
Okay.
And that was the Monday night game. And I said, are the Bears going to beat the Lions? And I said, they aren't going to beat the Lions. But I just wanted to have a conversation with him, blah. And I told him about the football play. He goes, oh, yeah, Bears win guaranteed. I just, screw you, whatever. And shook his hand, see you later, and wished him on his merry way. I was some kind of mad I didn't follow James Michaelopoulos' word on that one, because it put me right there. It's like, the Lions they seem to do it. Now, I think they're good enough. They started off good enough, and they gave themselves a cushion. Yeah. And that's one thing with these short seasons. Like in baseball, you get to a bit of a losing streak. Well, it's okay. You'll figure a way. But giving yourself a bit of a cushion in the NFL, you start off 5-1, 6-2, whatever it is, where you can have an oops here and there, because the league is so. I don't want to say it's mediocre, as Tom Brady said, but there's enough parity because of its mediocrity. Like the NFL starts off, like I've always said, 8-8. So it's always been 16 games for me, right? But every team starts off 8-8 or 9-8, in my opinion, and they kind of whittle themselves in one way or the other. Right. It's kind of how I break it down. And everybody's going to finish off 10-7, 11-6, 5. Like, it's just the way it works. Like, nobody's. Well, there's the two Southern Conference teams that aren't very low conferences aren't very good, but the decent teams all kind of whittle themselves into that just above mediocre level.
Everybody's has a 2 to 3 game stretch where they stub their toe and whatnot. So we're running up against it. There's one more topic I want to just get your opinion on as an outsider. What happened we're going to go to the NHL real quick. What happened in Detroit over the weekend with Dylan Larkin getting knocked out, and then Perron retaliating in his behalf and getting 6 games?
I saw Larkin go down, and I turned my head for a second because I had it on one of the TVs down here in the tavern here, and and he was out. Like, he was out cold, and it was scary. It's like, oh, he's not moving. Right. And then I saw the play, and it was just, what the heck happened there? Because it looked something that you see every game that's happening right now in junior hockey, college hockey. There was a scrum in front of the net, and there wasn't anything vicious. There wasn't anything that I saw that was out of the ordinary. But then you got the nuts and bolts. We got something in the back of the head. But the original look of it was like, Jesus. But then Perron went over and he cross-checked whoever it was right in the face. And that's the one thing that with the director of player safety, like what's his name, George Peros, that's the one thing that they really frown upon is any kind of stick work.
Yeah.
And it's such a crap shoot because there's been an influx of hitting from behind this week, and that's one that always scares me because hitting from behind that could put a guy in a wheelchair for life. And so how the NHLPA distinguishes one from the other is a mystery to me, because if a guy gets a slash across the face, the worst thing he's going to lose is a couple of teeth and get a broken nose. And you look at that one that happened with what's the guy's name from the Rangers a week and a half ago, their captain. Well, I can't think of his name right now, but it doesn't matter. He slashed a guy in the Bruins right across the face, and he got a stern finger wagging. Don't do that again. $5,000 fine, and he makes $8 million a year. So what's that? Nothing. And so the way the NHLPA and the play, like it's something that's agreed upon with the player safety guys. I just find it odd that a stick incident that gives a guy some structural damage, I guess, across the guy's face, that is so frowned upon. I'm not saying it's a good thing by any means, Lou. I'm not saying that guys should go around swinging their sticks like tomahawks, but I'm also saying that a hit from behind gets nothing. Like a guy got kneed. The kid from Winnipeg took a knee the other day, and he's out 6 to 8 weeks, and Winnipeg's having themselves a hell of a season. And the guy who hit him, nothing. So, like you go, like they talk out of both sides of their mouth, and even Sidney Crosby, he doesn't say nothing, like crap his mouth's full of it. And he said that's the one thing I don't understand about the league we play in is that the suspensions don't warrant what could happen. Like because a guy gets cross-checked in the face and might lose a couple of teeth, that can be fixed. A spine can't be fixed, right? So I don't think 6 games should have happened. Should Perron have done it? Probably not, but that's when you see your captain laying on the ice not moving, that's probably just a reaction to hockey players. Canada and the United States are that's just kind of one of those instinctual things that I don't think it was a 6 gamer. I thought maybe 2. Yeah. Just because, but what do you think on that? Because it was scary. Like it was scary. Like I said, I didn't know how it happened. Like it just seemed like it's a scrum that you see how many times a game. Yeah, it was odd.
To be honest with you, Brent, I don't have a problem with it. I think it's about fair. I mean, it might get knocked down to 4 eventually because he's appealing it, but I worry about that. And I'll tell you what, and you see it at all the levels. I broadcast ACHA games, and I saw a hit that was clean, and the kid hit the ice and got knocked out cold. They ended up getting the stretcher out, the ambulance, the whole bit. Precautionary. The kid's okay. But you see hits like that, and it just, whenever it starts getting to the back of the neck, like you said, and from behind, I know you're always going to have retaliatory hits. I just worry about that. If that guy would have got injured, that Perron hit, he would have got 20 games for that vicious of a hit, in my opinion. Yeah. So I'm a Red Wings guy. I'm upset that they lost him. But they ended up winning last night against St. Louis, and then they ended up firing.
Craig Ruby fired, yeah.
He got fired because they brought up 3 guys from Grand Rapids, and they ended up contributing to that game. But
it's crazy. It's crazy how short people's memories are. St. Louis is only 4 years away from winning a Stanley Cup that they probably shouldn't have won. And it was because Craig Ruby was on behind the bench there, and the song "Gloria" was a big factor to do with that too. But it's funny how short memories are there, and it just like the NHL is so funny. Like I have a buddy here. He lines in the Alberta Junior Hockey League Tier 2 here in Canada, and they're all wearing full face shields this year, full masks compared to the half shields. He says just this year compared to last year, the stick work that there is now, because kids come up right in the guy's face, and it's nothing for him anymore because they know the guy's protected, right? So it's crazy that the penalties don't match the crime. No, a lot of times, right? No, it's crazy, but it's one of those.
Well,
things.
Brent, this hour is just about flown by. Before we go, tell us a little bit what you got going on with the podcast. I know you're extremely busy. You do a wonderful job.
We got a lot going on here at World Headquarters. We got our website where we're ramping things up. So we're doing some writing on that on the 1420 Sports Bar, and then the 1420 Sports Bar Media podcast. Me and Dave do it Mondays and Thursdays. We're in the middle of a move here from World Headquarters to a new location here in the next week and a half. So I don't know how many shows we'll get out there for the holiday season, but lots of hockey talk coming up, football obviously, and then when something something like the Ohtani signing comes up, we get that, the baseball talk in the off season, but lots going on here in our YouTube channel and everything else. So at _1420 and at Brent Radlinsky, you can find us. And we always got something going on. Always willing to come and talk to Lou and sports and everything else. And we should almost make this a weekly segment, Lou. We'd break the airwaves.
Well, you know what? We'll let my people get in touch with your people after the holidays.
I'm sure our budgets are about the same, so we'll be okay on that.
Well, Brent, thank you very much for coming on the show tonight. It's been great. Merry Christmas. Good luck with your move with the world headquarters. And again, keep up the great work, will you?
We're doing our best here. And thanks to Belly Up Sports also for the nomination for the Curator of the Year and all that stuff. So, no, it's a pretty big honor to be nominated for that. So it's kind of a nice feeling I think it was last Saturday or Friday, whatever it was.
Heck yeah. Well-deserved, by the way. You do wonderful work. Can't say it enough. Well, hey, everybody, that's going to do it for us here on the Extravaganza. We'll be back on next Wednesday night, 7:00. We pushed it back a half hour due to my job that I have that I got to make real money at. I got with meetings and whatnot, but we will be back 7:00 Eastern time next week with another edition of the Captain Lou Extravaganza, and also Tuesday night again with the Road to St. Louis and the ACHA Nationals kicking into high gear. We're going to be on every week now from here on till March on Tuesday nights at 7:00 as well too. All right, Captain Lou saying keep your heads up, keep your sticks down, keep your feet moving, and as always, keep your minds open. Thanks for joining us here on the Captain Lou Extravaganza on the Captain Lou Sports Network on YouTube, powered up by Belly Up Sports. So long.